we're working for Appco. We don't work for ASPCA. We're not supposed to mention we work for Appco or Forward either. We're supposed to say, oh, we represent ASPCA. That's what we're supposed to say, and it doesn't tell you on charitynavigator.org that, ASPCA, pays Appco to build these offices, these scams, and then Forward hires us to go out and slave away and make them money, and none of that. I don't know how much of that money actually goes to the charity. I actually don't know, and I'm gonna assume it's not a lot.
Okay, Sergo, you worked for a marketing company called Forward Marketing, and you identified that as an Appco company.
Yep.
You worked there for 7 months.
Yep.
And in your message to us, you said that you really didn't know what the job was, that it was your understanding that it was just going to be like a basic, boring office type of job, but that's not at all what you found it to be. No. So I'm curious, how was the job presented to you so that you thought that that's what you were going to be doing?
So back in, I believe, September 2019, so I had graduated from, at that time, I had just graduated from Florida Atlantic University in May, and I was back home in Tampa. And I was looking for, a job because I was fresh out of college, trying to find a full-time job immediately, see what I wanted to do. Because after I graduated, I didn't really know what the next step was. So I was on Indeed, and I was going online, looking for jobs. I saw this job from Forward, and it made it seem like it was like a marketing type of thing. And looking back now, like the description was kind of vague. It was like, up potential, top earning potential. And it was talking about, all these same buzzwords that we know about it now, like, top earning potential, fun office environment, that bullshit that they talk about. And so I go and apply. Within a day or two, I got a call from one of the, I guess they call them administrators. And I got a call from her. I'll use the name Kay because she doesn't work there anymore, but I'll use the name Kay. And she, said, hey, come in for an interview. I think the interview was on like a Tuesday. So I called out of work because I used to work at Home Goods. So I called out of work so I can do the interview. And, the office was like I think I said in my email, the office was in like a really bad part of Tampa, which it was just in a really, really bad part of Tampa. It was a really small office in like a little, like an office shopping plaza area. And it was like a tiny office. But when I got in, everyone was nice. And like I said, I thought it was like some sort of small startup marketing company. That's what was presented to me. Everybody was dressed all nice. And I got my first interview done. And Kwaundel told me, hey, come for the second interview. That was I believe on a Wednesday. So the day after. And both of the interviews were quick. Like they weren't like super long. I was in and out within like maybe 45 minutes. And they were group interviews. And then the second interview though, we sat in the little conference room, and it was like 8 or 9 of us. He quizzed us as well, which was kind of weird. And he also gave us this like paper to like write down like, our strengths, weaknesses, all that, which I didn't think much of it because that's I feel like it's typical. And then we had to do one-on-one with Kwaundel, and I got the job. And I started on I think on a Thursday or a Friday. So within the week I had 2 interviews, and then I started on like a Thursday or Friday.
One of the reasons that you told us that you wanted to tell your story was, according to you, of all the red flags that you ignored. The first thing you mentioned was that the office was in a kind of bad part of town, which isn't necessarily a red flag that it's not a legitimate company, but that is something that stood out to you.
Yeah.
Once you got in, you passed the interview process. What were some of the other red flags that you noticed?
So, one thing that I noticed on my first day when I physically walked into the office, I didn't think anything of it. I was pretty excited. I was like, this is a new job, my first big boy job out of college. I was only 22. I'm only 24 now. But anyways, so one thing that I noticed immediately was when I got into the atmosphere room. So we had like a kind of a big, I guess, atmosphere room, and everyone was like, pitch practicing with each other. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what is this? And everyone's dressed all nice. So I'm still under the impression that this is like an office job. And I meet my trainer, I'll call him D. He approaches me, Kwaundel introduces me to my trainer. At the time he was a team leader. And he says, okay, but let's work on the pitch. And that threw me off. I was like, pitch? What is this? Like, I thought this was a marketing thing. I didn't know this was like sales. And that was the first red flag for me. I was just like, sales. I didn't know this was sales. I thought this was, marketing. I mean, granted, I didn't know that much about marketing, but, I didn't know it was sales. And I had to learn the pitch within an hour. And then I was off to the field.
Yeah, and you said later in your message, and something else that we'll touch on later, and the primary reason I wanted to talk to you was because the thing that you were quote unquote selling were the donations to charities. And in my opinion, that's the absolutely most despicable thing that any of these companies do, is essentially lie to people about donating to charity. So we'll get to that. But you said that you honestly, so you didn't know what you were going to be doing until your first day. Wow. I mean, and you're not the only person to tell me that. I honestly lost track of all the people that have told me that. Did you get the impression that, and like you said, in retrospect, the red flags are pretty obvious, but did you get the opinion like the admin or Kwaundel or anybody was kind of glossing over the job responsibilities or maybe hiding anything? Or was there any type of suspicions that you had early on?
Honestly, I feel like at that time I was in a state where I was kind of just desperate, because instead of my email, I wanted to get out of my current job and I wanted to do something new. So I feel like even if I had a little bit of doubt, I was really excited about this job and I didn't want to seem like, oh, I was excited, because when I was looking for jobs before, I had fallen into it was a scam, but I didn't give money or anything like that. But I'd fallen for a little bit of scams before, where someone would be like, oh, you got the job and send me money or whatever. And I obviously did. Well, that's a scam, because it's pretty obvious. So I just wanted so badly for this to be like a legit thing. And, I thought, well, they have a website, they have a physical office, there are employees that work there, people are getting paid. So it has to be real. This has to be a legit thing. My parents, though, had doubts immediately. When I told them finally what the job was about, they immediately were like, what? You're going to be in public, they weren't really feeling it, but I just wanted to give it a shot and see.
Sure.
But I feel like Kwaundel, though, was the one that was kind of glossing over a lot of the job responsibilities until the first day. Like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing until the first day. But the administrators, there were two of them. There was K and then L. One was the other one. They were really nice. I mean, that was, I liked them a lot. They were very nice. But Kwaundel was the one that kind of glossed over during the interview what the actual job was going to be about. So it was unclear. With the office culture, I guess, the atmosphere room, it was exactly the same. The loud music every single day. And the high energy, the responses that we had to give. So we'd have to say, some officers say, hey team, hey what? We're supposed to say, I wish I could remember the first thing. Oh, okay. So before we go on the field, he would say, first one to the field, and we're supposed to say first one to make money. We're supposed to say that every time. And he also, not necessarily him, but just the whole office environment. When I first got there, I thought it was fun, honestly, because I was playing loud. They were playing really trendy music. Everyone was around my age, so they also did a lot of I was considered ageism. They didn't hire people that were older than, I would say, 35. They would not hire you. They wouldn't even look at you if you were that old. So everybody there was between the ages of 18 and 35. Another thing that I noticed that I hated was when we got to the office and we dressed up in our nice clothes, that we had to dress up business professional. And then come to find out you have to change out of because we had to change into our ASPCA shirts and, comfortable shorts or whatever the weather permitted. And we kind of had to, it had to be obviously couldn't just be basketball shorts, it had to be cargos or something. But one thing that I did not like is that we had to go to the office with our professional, nice press clothes, as if we're going to this legitimate office, doing legitimate things, pretending to be a professional business office when we're not. And then an hour or two later, after we're done with our morning meeting or whatever, we're supposed to change out of those clothes and into our, field clothes and go out to the field. I didn't understand that because I'm like, well, I have to bring a change of clothes every single day and then drive an hour and a half to, not an office, to like Winn-Dixie or Walmart or in some random place. Like I remember also another time, Kwaundel wouldn't really listen to our concerns, especially there was this one time that I briefly mentioned where I was harassed by someone, like, he was on drugs and I was there by myself. And I was only at the office for a month. So I was still new. And I called Kwaundel and I called my leader and I said, hey, I don't feel comfortable. I want to go home. It was about like 5 o'clock. You go to the field from like 11 to like 7 or 8. So it was like and we're supposed to be at the office by 9. Or if you're a leader, like 8:30, 8:45. And like, I told Kwaundel, I said, I don't feel comfortable. This guy's harassing me. I had to go inside and tell the manager, and the manager had to threaten to call the cops on him because he would not leave me alone. He got in my face, was very aggressive, And I told Kwaundel, I said, don't send me back to that site. I'd say, please don't send me back to that site. There's a lot of, I just thought I didn't feel safe. And he sent me back to that site 3 more times. Like he just did not listen. And I literally sat down and I talked to him and I said, Kwaundel, like, I don't want to go to the site. There was another girl that was sexually harassed at a site. Like it was 2 girls that were at that site. And this guy, homeless guy, I think came over and started like sexually harassing them, commenting on their bodies. They told Kwaundel, we don't want to go back to this site. We were pretty much sexually harassed. He sent them there the next day and they refused to go. Cause it's like, wow, you're just not listening. It's all about money. It's not about our safety. He doesn't like and I can't even say it's about him because I feel like a lot of the managers are like that. A lot of the owners are like that. It's all about money, especially the ones that are in it for a long time. And because I feel like everyone gets to a point where they realize this is a scam. And then it's up to that person to decide if they want to stay and be a scam artist or leave. And I feel like Kwaundel knows it's a scam. And he just decided, well, I'm just going to be a scam artist. I'm just going to scam people and, scam employees and make them feel like they're going to, own their own office one day or scam the public and, having us sign people up for charities when the money's going to go to Appco and then the crumbs are going to go to us. So it's, the whole thing is just unethical and it should be illegal, honestly. It really should. Unfortunately, it's not. But
I did a little bit of research on Kwaundel, and it is open information. Like he has on his public profile that he's been with Forward Marketing Group since November of 2018. But before then, he has quite a bit of experience with Appco. And he just comes out and say it that he worked with Appco, which is something that we normally don't see in these profiles. They tend to try to keep those things secret.
Yep.
And you said that you eventually did find out that
yes.
this was Appco, not really Forward Marketing, but Appco. How did you come across that, and what was your reaction?
So when I first started the job for like 1 or 2 months, I thought this was like, just a single company. But one thing that I started noticing immediately was we would have meetings with other offices, which I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time, but we would have, I think the CEO or whatever of Appco, which is, I believe, Chris Niarchos.
Yes.
And we would have meetings with him every, I believe, Tuesday morning. We would have like a conference call with him. Kwaundel would like have his phone out and we'd have a conference call with Chris Niarchos and Chris Rudge. And I don't remember what he does. He's one of the other higher ups. Just don't remember what he does. But we would have like, and they would list all the offices, like, oh, this is the office that does, the most sales. And he would name the people who like high rolled that week or high rolled that day.
Yeah.
And that's when I started thinking like, oh, there are other offices doing the same thing with us. So I'm thinking maybe this is like a franchise thing. Mm-hmm. And then like 3 or 4 months later, because when we did our charity, we have the little iPads and we have like a little, it's not an email, but it's like a username that we have, and it said .appco on mine, on everyone's. So that's when I put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, oh, this is Appco. But I didn't know what Appco was at the time. So something happened I believe in December and January. So like when I started thinking, oh, what's Appco? And I didn't really do any research on it. And I just kind of think, okay, well, but he runs this. I was under the impression that Kwaundel actually ran it and owned it, but he got it through this company or whatever. And actually I'll go back to actually November. So in November, I went on my first road trip to Alabama, and there's another story about that as well. I was sick. I had gone to EDC, Electronic Daisy Carnival in Orlando, and then I got sick while I was over there, not with COVID, but I caught like a really bad flu, all the people. This was like before COVID was a thing.
Yeah.
And then I got sick. I was out for a week, which Kwaundel was, because, you know, if you get out, if you're sick, or if you're like, they don't have PTO. So there's no such thing as PTO. Because like you're out, then you just don't get paid. So I was gone for like a week, and he made me get a doctor's note, which was weird because I texted him saying, "Hey, I'm sick. You know, I can't come to work." And he said, "Well, you need to get a doctor's note, or you know, or else." So I got a doctor's note, found out I have the flu, and then my training manager was planning a trip to Alabama, to Huntsville, and I told him I wasn't going to go because I was sick, and he pretty much begged me to go. So I went, high rolled there, did pretty well, got promoted after I got back. And then I started doing really well and started getting closer with Kwaundel, and like, because I got promoted. So I was in that kind of like that inner circle kind of. And in December, he did this thing where like he was going to close the office for 2 weeks for Christmas and New Year's. And, you know, obviously we weren't going to get paid, but he did a thing where like, if you sign this form or whatever, I've never heard a job do this before, but if you sign this like form or whatever, they would like save money. Like they'll take out like $50, like $100 or $75 from your paycheck every like week, and then give you a lump sum when we got back, which I've never heard of, but I signed up for it. Apparently they lost my paper, so I didn't get paid,
Yeah.
which pissed me off because like I was the first one to give it to him. He acted like it wasn't a big deal. That was like 600 something bucks that I could have used and that I was preparing for, and I never got. And he acted like it just wasn't a big deal, which that made me think, okay, well now, you know, what's going on? You know, this is kind of weird. You know, why are you gonna lose my paper and then not do anything about it, and then I don't get paid? And that's what made me start looking for another job. And then January, I went on a road trip. The whole thing was just really shady. And then I started talking with one of my coworkers who started, you know, making me think like, okay, like how are we getting paid if this is like charity? And then eventually the pandemic hit. And so I had already gotten a new job at, because I work for Allstate now. So I'd already got hired with them in February, and I was going to leave anyway. And then at that time, I still didn't really think, well, this is probably not a scam. It's just really shady. But then one of my friends discovered one of your videos, like the documentary, the Slave Circle documentary, and I watched it. And that was after I'd already quit, because I quit in like April. Like when the office was closed, I just texted him saying, hey, I quit. And then in the 2 days after that, that's when I discovered the Slave Circle documentary. And then, yeah, that's when I was like, wow, this is a scam. Like, not legitimate at all.
So can you take me through some of the things you remember from the charity pitch? Where were you selling? How did you stop people? Did you ever express any type of, I don't know, negative feeling that what you were doing was not helping the actual charities and having doubts about where the money was going? So
when I first started we would go in like Winn-Dixie's, Walmart's. We're not allowed in Publix's. That's one thing I noticed. I don't know if that's changed now, but from that time, we were not allowed in any Publix's. I've never gone to a Publix, except like sometimes if people go out in the field on Saturdays, a Publix, rarely, on a rare occasion, will let them in.
Yeah.
And we usually stand outside unless it was like, you know, sometimes we go to pet supermarkets, sometimes they let us inside, or some local pet store, but we usually were in Winn-Dixie's, Walmart's. Those were the two main places that we went to, and it was like all over the Tampa area. So we can go as close as like the Winn-Dixie down the street, or we can go as far as like Sarasota, which is about an hour and a half from Tampa. This is pretty far, and I lived half an hour north of Tampa at the time, so it'd be like a 2-hour drive for me. We usually we did like the C Factor, you know, Smile, Tight Mix, Enthusiasm. I think it was the 15-10-5 rule we would do. We had our pitch, which was, I don't know if I remember the pitch now. I don't know if I have it in like one of these, but like pretty sure I have it. Oh yeah. So they gave me this paper, which has like the pitch that my trainer gave me on my first day. And so, you know, how we're supposed to stop them. First of all, we're supposed to like kind of judge them. They said that you're not judging them, but you're pretty much supposed to like, you know, kind of gauge if they have money or not, pretty much. Like we weren't supposed to sign up anyone that was under the age of 25, which, I mean, I see why the logic behind that was because, you know, they said that we were supposed to say that based on surveys that ASPCA did, which I'm pretty sure is a lie, that people under the age of 25 tend to be less financially stable. So, which kind of makes sense, you know, when you think about it, because, you know, our generation, like I'm 24, you know, I'm just now starting to become a little bit more financially stable now. And we're supposed to stop people that look like they have money, they have like a nice car, you know, nice jewelry, iPhone, like stop them. You know, women, we tend to want to stop more as well, especially because, you know, their logic was that women were more emotional. You know, they're more likely to, people with pets especially, like stop them every time, like if they have a pet, you know, because, you know, ASPCA. And there was two charities we worked with when I was there. There was ASPCA and there was C.A.R.E. C.A.R.E. was for, I don't know if you heard of it, but it's like, I think it's a lesser known charity, but it's with helping children in like other countries, like countries in Africa, Asia, all that. Yeah. So C.A.R.E. is the other one, but ASPCA was like the main one. Like most of people did ASPCA because it was a little bit easier.
Yeah.
We got more pushback with C.A.R.E. because not a lot of people have heard of it and all that. But ASPCA, everybody knows the commercials, you know, yeah. So more people saw us and were willing to talk with us. But the pitch, like kind of how it goes is that I would stop you, introduce myself, ask you if you have animals, you know, or do you like animals? Most people are going to say yes. Of
course not. No way. Not at all, right?
Yeah. And then because, you know, if you say no, then, you know, oh, you're a piece of shit pretty much. And then after that, we, you know, sometimes people would ask us what we're doing. Sometimes people would approach us. We call them unicorns. So like people just walk up to you, they're all excited and like they just, you know, give you their money immediately. Like just like, oh, I don't care, I want to donate. But with people that I would pitch to, I would, you know, start my presentation and I say, oh, you seen those commercials on TV, right? They'd be like, yeah, those puppy dog commercials, Arms and Age or whatever. And then after that, you know, I go down. We had like little it wasn't like a small card, it was like a big card like this big. The pitch card, we call them, and then we would show them like first let me look at this real quick because like I haven't done this like a while. Well, first like we talk about the problem. So like we talk about, oh, you know, this amount of animals every day are being like, you know, abused or whatever. And then, you know, we make them feel, the idea is about that's to make them feel sad, you know, like, damn, like that's horrible. Yeah. And then we give them a solution like, you know, hey, but we're doing this and we're doing all these, you know, nice things for these animals and this is great. And then the idea is for them to be happy. Like, oh, okay, sure. This is great. And then we say, well, you know, in order for us to do that, we, you know, need financial support or whatever. And, you know, every animal deserves a good home, right? We'd ask them like leading questions like that. Because if I tell you every animal deserves a good home, you tell me no, you know, like you have to say yes, you know, unless, you know, you want me to think you're a shitty person. And then sometimes not sometimes, all the time in our pitch, we're supposed to say, well, everybody agrees and how, you know, everybody is helping us by donating just something as little, and we're supposed to do this as little as 63 cents a day, $20 a month, you know, and just keep it going as long as you can. And sometimes you'd be like, oh, 63 cents a day, you know, that's not less than coffee or whatever. And then, you know, and then like the last thing based on this paper, even though I said it differently, it said, knowing the huge impact you could have on these animals' lives today, can we count on your support? And usually like people would say yes, and then sort of we're supposed to like impulse them into like, you know, doing it. And so they're just like, oh, yes. And then after that, we just immediately bring out the iPad as soon as they said yes, and then sign them up immediately. And like, just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, you know, one of the things that I teach my students is persuasion and persuasive methods. And I mean, I was taking feverish notes while you were talking there because you mentioned so many persuasive methods. And when you really analyze the human psychology of how persuasion works, the pitch is brilliant. I mean, and you don't have to be a genius to come up with something like this, right? I mean, like you said, you've got the sad animal commercials are already out there. Everybody's seen them. So now you just got to tie in what you're doing to that, and you're going to catch people's attention. So you've got, like you said, emotional appeal. Anytime you can make someone feel something, first it's negative emotional appeal, sadness, then it's happy emotional
Mhm.
appeal.
Mhm.
You pretty much followed Monroe's motivated sequence, because you got their attention, you told them what the problem was, you shared the solution, you were able to visualize the solution of that problem, knowing how much we do, and then your question, right? Your call to action: can we help? Can we count on you? Can we count on your help? Questions with one answer. Don't you think every animal needs a home? No, of course not.
Yeah.
You can't answer that question that way.
Right.
And then how much is it? That's a great rhetorical tactic, right? $20 a month, yeah, but 63 cents a
3 cents.
day.
Yep.
That sounds
That's
like
nothing.
a good deal right
Yep.
there. Who wouldn't save an animal for 63 cents a day?
Exactly.
And I'm not knocking the Humane Society or the ASPCA. They're an
Yeah.
excellent organization. My family and I have supported them in the past. They're a real charity. They do real good in the country and in the world. It's just sad that they've had to use whether they know it or not. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that leads into my next question, which is, for the 7 months you were there, did you have any contact with anybody from the actual charities?
One time it was on a call. I don't really remember what the call was about. I don't even know if they were like an actual representative of the ASPCA, like they actually worked there, or if they were just someone that was like hired to like represent the ASPCA. But we had one call many months ago, back in like maybe November or December 2019. We had a call with like someone about the charity, about ASPCA. And I think they were talking about how like, they're working with Subaru, or Subaru works with ASPCA, because I know Subaru does work with them. They were mentioning that, like, if people that donate monthly can get like a discount or something like that. I don't really remember, but that was the only time. And that one I remember vividly because there was one guy and there that asked, well, do we ever get to visit like the centers? Can we see what's going on? And Kwaundel pretty much told him no. Kwaundel, and I'm pretty sure we were also on the phone with like Chris Niarchos, I'm pretty sure. And the answer was pretty much no. Like, no, you can't. Like, no, we weren't really supposed to like go and see like the ASPCA centers. We weren't supposed to really do that. I mean, they weren't going to pay for it, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't going to be like, because I thought it was pretty cool. Maybe we can go visit one of their shelters, because I know they have one in Miami. We can go visit, and no, we're not allowed to.
And that to me is kind of suspicious, because if you're doing all this, doing wonderful things supposedly for this charity, you would think that you would have a little bit more contact with somebody,
Yeah.
and someone that would come into the office and just talk about how much great work you're doing, all the animals you've helped save, something like that.
It never happened, ever.
Yeah.
Never happened.
When you were seeking donations, was it only the debit transactions?
Yep. We were not allowed to take cash at all. Like, which I understood, because some of the areas they would send us to were really bad. And sometimes we'd be harassed. I was harassed a few times by people, because thinking that they have money. So I understand why they told us not to take cash, but it was debit or credit only, or electronic like payment. Like, we would wire it from like your routing number and all that. So everything was done on the iPad that we had.
Yeah, but I think it's also just it's easier for Appco to control the money that way.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I'm getting cash, there's no paper trail to it really. It's a one-time thing, and the only way that Appco gets paid, and honestly the only way the charity gets paid, is if you do these recurring transactions.
Yep.
And honestly, I mean, this sounds horrible, but if I was getting paid as little as Appco and Credico and Smart Circle paid me, there's no saying that cash would ever make it back to the office, man. That might end up going somewhere else.
Yeah, sometimes people would just like give us money, and we would tell them. There were like, it doesn't happen all the time, but there were times where people would just give us money, and I'd say, no, we can't take cash, and they'll just like, no, take it, like just take it. Mostly because I feel like they feel bad for us, and because we're outside. Sometimes we'd be out in the rain, it'd be really hot, and so they'll just give us money, and we're technically not supposed to take it. But if they give it to me and they won't take no for an answer, then I mean, sometimes I would just keep it, or I would like spend it on lunch or something.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't like, but I wouldn't lead them to believe that, this is for the charity. Like, I would let them know, no, I can't take it. They'll just tell me, just keep it. I'm like, okay. But I know I've known people. Actually, there was this one girl, and I don't know if she's still there anymore. I think she is. If she's not there, she's still hanging around the same people. So I think she's still in it. There's one girl though. She was a crew leader. Yeah, she was a crew leader. She was above training manager. I'll let you know like the names that we call the employees there. But she actually got in trouble with Kwaundel, and I'll also tell you the reason why he didn't fire her for this. She was on a streak where every day she would score, and that's what we called them. Like, when you would get a donation, we call them scores, or if we ring the bell, or get drums, or
I'm glad you clarified, because my mind went another direction as soon as you said that. But yeah, ring the bell. That's what I'm used to hearing.
Yeah, ringing the bell. Yeah, and then she wasn't doing terribly that day. I guess she was about to get a 0, and so she paid this guy like $20 on like Venmo, so he can sign up for the charity. And then he told him to cancel within like a week, and he found out, and she got in trouble. But he didn't fire her. Kwaundel didn't fire her because she was directly on Kwaundel's team. Yeah. So he was making money directly off her sales. So if he fired her, and she was the only one left on his team technically that was there since the beginning, so he couldn't fire her. Yeah, so I've known people that do like very shady things just for a sale. Like people like would pressure you. I've seen people like pressure customers when they're in the stores, not outside the stores, especially if we're at Walmart, where we don't go in stores. I've seen people. This is one guy that he's a assistant manager, assistant owner. Yeah, he was an assistant owner, so I guess he's right below an owner, which I'll tell you about him too, because he I went on a field with him one time, and he literally was just so brutal, I guess. Like, he would just like use so much emotional and manipulative tactics to get sales. Like, he would get a sale no matter what. Like, as soon as he got you on the iPad, you were not leaving on the iPad. That's what he would do. And even if people would say, no, I don't have the money, can we do this later? No. Like, it was just very manipulative. Like, it just fostered an environment of like, I feel like at that point, like, the more I was there, the more I kind of started to notice that like it's just about sales. Yeah. Like, they don't really give a shit about the animals. They don't give a shit if you saved an animal, saved the kid. It's just about sales. That's all it is. Like, about getting an Excel after you get that person, signed up, and then on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. Like, it's just dollar signs. That's all it was.
Was there any doubt ever in your mind, or did the question ever come up at any point in the office about whether the money actually was going to the charity, or how this idea of, I'm making this much money, so what goes to the charity, was that ever brought up at all?
Not in the office, but as I mentioned, when I went to my second road trip, I think it was Fort Myers. I can't remember the name of the city, but yeah. I'm going to say Fort Myers. When I was there, me and one of my other coworkers, who he also left as well, we were talking about this like during the road trip, because, there were just more shady things happening in that road trip. The road trip was going wrong for everybody. And me and him were talking one day, because we're out in the field, and we're just like, he just told me, he's like, do you ever think about the fact that we're doing this for charity, yet we're getting paid? And there's not only we're getting paid, like there's like, like we get like, so how it worked at, I don't know if it's for every office, but like the more sales you make, the more your commission goes up. So every sale we made $40 per sale. So if we made one sale that day, you had, because it wasn't commission only, thank God, like you were paid $60 a day. So if you made one sale, that's $100 you made that day for being there at the field and making the sale. But if you made like 2 sales, it goes up to like, I believe 50. So if you made 2 sales, it'll go from $40 to $50. And then if you make 3 sales, it'll go from 50 to 55, or 4 sales, it'll just go up to like 60 or something. I don't remember the rest of it, but like each time you made more sales, the commission went up. And we were talking about that. We're just like, well, how much of it goes to the charity? But the thing is, we use the thing called charitynavigator.org, and we're supposed to have that ready on the iPad. And what it did is that like it broke down, it's a legit website. Like it's not like a fake website or whatever. It gives a breakdown of all the financial breakdown of all the charities. And we would always pull up the ASPCA whenever somebody had questions, so we can, as a rebuttal. So when someone's like, well, how much of it goes to charity? We'll show them. I don't remember the actual figures of it, but we'd show them like, oh, this is what goes to the charity. We'd look it up. Well, we'd have it pulled up ready, but it doesn't tell you that, we're working for Appco. We don't work for ASPCA. We're not supposed to mention we work for Appco or Forward either. We're supposed to say, oh, we represent ASPCA. That's what we're supposed to say. you know, and it doesn't tell you on charitynavigator.org that, you know, ASPCA, you know, pays Appco to build these offices, these scams, and then Ford hires us to go out and slave away and make them money, you know, and none of that. I don't know how much of that money actually goes to the charity. I actually don't know, and I'm gonna assume it's not a lot, because I know in Australia, Appco was in trouble for, you know, basically not like pocketing most of the money.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna assume it's the same here.
Yeah, what you're speaking of, there's an article in the Guardian that talks a lot about that from years ago, and yeah, just based on other people I've talked to that have done the same charity stuff, I mean, that there's no reason for me to believe that yours was any different, and that they actually got a lot of the money, because that seems to be the theme, is that they barely got anything.
Yeah.
You had talked a little bit about the structure of the company and the assistant owner and those types of things. Could you shed a little bit more light on the structure of like an Appco company and the different levels and all those things?
So with the Appco companies that I know of, like Ford and like some of the other ones that I can't remember, you start out as a not training manager. You start out as a brand ambassador. That's your official title, is brand ambassador. And then once you make enough sales, because like, you know, you make enough sales and you start, you know, ringing the bell, hitting the, like bells was like 2 sales, drums is 3, gong 4, and then saxophone, I think it's 5 or 6. I don't remember. Yeah, we had stupid names for them, really stupid names for them. But if you make enough of those, like, and you make enough sales, like, you know, impress Kwaundel pretty much, or be close, be his buddy, you'll get promoted to training manager. And training manager that's when you can have more brand ambassadors under you. That's when like the pyramid type of structure starts happening, where you start getting people under you, you start training them, and then you make money off of their sales. So every sale that they make, you make commission off of their sales. And then you have enough brand ambassadors on your team, and then start making enough sales, and then you get promoted into crew leader. And then you have enough, you promote, once you get the crew leader, you have to promote a lot of your brand ambassadors into training managers, and they start training people. You're still making money off of the brand ambassadors, the training managers. And then after you have enough of that, you become an assistant owner, which means they start training you to like run your own office, you know? And then after that, you know, you get sent out to like, you know, some random city, like they do in like Credico and, you know, Smart Circle and all that. And then you go to some random city and you know, open your own office. One guy though, I'm gonna call him M. He was an assistant owner. Assistant owner is the official title. He was sent to Orlando. When I first started, he was in Orlando, had his own office and all that. He was a beast on the field. He was the one that I told you was like super manipulative with people. Like, not necessarily in a bad way. I don't think he's a bad person, but I just think he's the type of person that he's just gonna do what he has to do to get a sale. You know, that's just what it is. And he owned his own office under Kwaundel. And then Kwaundel took him out to do a retrain, and he never got back. He never came back to Orlando. This happened in like December 2019. He still is there in Tampa. He literally had to pack up, close the whole office, which to me, that didn't make sense to me. Because if you own your own office, if it's your office, how can Kwaundel tell you have to close up, you're doing a retrain? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, that's not your office. You don't own that business then, because that could happen to Kwaundel. I mean, it's never going to happen to Kwaundel. He's been there too long, and he has other offices that he's promoted out. But you can't just tell somebody, close up, you're going on a retrain, come back, and then just pretty much be a brand ambassador, basically, where you're just an assistant owner. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and not only to you, it doesn't make sense at all. It makes no sense logically, but they train you to strive for this business ownership, entrepreneurship, right? At the end of the rainbow, at the end of the carrot stick, there's that entrepreneurship. You're going to own your own business. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If someone above can come and shut down your business, then you're not the business owner. Sorry, guys. It just, you can lie about as much as you want. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you're not.
There is no ownership happening there.
Nope.
You were around Kwaundel quite a bit in your 7 months, and if we look back at his profile, he's been involved with Appco for a long time. What did you get the impression that he was as successful as I'm sure he advertised himself to be? Did you get the sense he was genuine scam artist? Like what can you, based on that feeling?
Honestly, I feel like he was one of the few managers that I feel like he had money, only because he was there for so long. And I feel like he got in, like, you know, when you, like a classic pyramid scheme, you get in early and you make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And he's also appeared to be at the time good buddy with Chris Niarchos. I believe he worked with Chris Niarchos directly as well with Appco. I believe he had money. I've never been to his house, but I was told that it was nice. He drove nice cars. Actually, when I was there, he had a Lexus, BMW, I believe. Like he looked like he had money. You know, he wore nice clothes. So I feel like he was one of the few managers that actually had, I don't know how much money, but actually had some semblance of, you know, money. Like he didn't look broke to me.
Right.
At least.
Yeah, because some owners do, right? Some owners, you know, they'll say they're a successful business owner, but they're driving a beat up 1995 Toyota something or other and live with 5 other people in a 2-bedroom apartment. And that's when you see something like that and your critical eyes on, which I know is not always easy in this business, but yeah, that should ring some bells. That should definitely raise some red flags. You concluded your message by saying that there were many things that happened to you that still affect you to this day. And you know, it's been a year and 3 months since you left, April of 2020. So you know, and I'm always curious when people reach out after. You know, it's one thing to contact us when you're just getting out, but it's another thing to hear from somebody after it's been a year plus. So, you know, what was your impetus for reaching out, and you know, how does this still affect you so much that it's something that you wanted to share this later?
Honestly, when I first saw your video, I think it was back in April 2020 that my friend showed me, I was very upset when I was seeing the video, because I remember the first 2 minutes, I thought this is exactly like Ford, like to a T. The only thing is that we're not like selling like face creams, or we're not selling, you know, shitty, you know, microwaves or whatever. Like we're not doing that, or we're not saying cable, we're doing charity, but it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. And I remember thinking, this is a scam, you know, and I remember feeling stupid, like, you know, how did I fall for this? But at the same time, you know, I didn't have to pay money to do it. It's not like, you know, Primerica or you know, Herbalife or something where it's like a, you know, like a kind of a pyramid scheme in a way. I mean, I don't want to say it is a pyramid scheme, kids to go after me, but and honestly, like with like watching all your videos, with the interviews you do with other people, and I'm thinking, you know, I didn't see much of like this type of scam, you know, because I feel like this type of scam is like not, like it's not that, I feel like it's not that, it's kind of rare in a way. Like you don't get those often, but they're just popping up everywhere. And I just feel like I just needed to say something about it, because there's a lot of things that I noticed at the end that I'm just like, this is not like ethical, you know, just a lot of like unethical things. I remember one conversation right before COVID hit, like and he had to shut down the office. They're planning on having another road trip. And I remember he brought all the guys into his little office. And he was saying, oh, we're going to have girls on this road trip. And he was just making a lot of comments that I just feel like a business owner, a manager should not be making about, you know, well, you know, make sure you don't sleep with them because, you know, they might say it's rape or something like that. To me, that's just like, that's not something professional that a manager, like a legit business owner should be saying, you know, like whatever, what you think about what's guys. I remember he said, oh, isn't that right, Sergo? And I just looked at him like he was crazy. I was like, no, that's not right. No, like you shouldn't be saying that. Well, how about we bring the girls in here and let them know how they feel about that? Or one thing though, that really like to this day irked me about Kwaundel and his immature behavior. There was this one girl that was there. She was transgender. I can tell that he didn't really like her that much, but he gave her a chance. I'm not saying that he is transphobic, but there's this one guy that was there, he was, you know, kind of trying to make fun of her, the transgendered person. And, you know, I can tell from the look of her eyes, she knew what was going on. He was not Kwaundel, but this other coworker was like, you know, kind of trying to tease her or whatever. And Kwaundel saw that, and I'm thinking, and he took him into the bathroom, and I'm thinking that, oh, you know, he's gonna tell him off, he's gonna yell at him. They come out both laughing. So I'm thinking, why are you laughing? And then about like, what could you be possibly laughing about this person that you hired? You hired this person. And then now you're joining in and making fun of her. And then he fired her the next day because she wasn't making enough sales. She was only there for 3 days. 3 days. And then he maybe go on the field with her, which I didn't have a problem with. I'm just like, no, well, you know, she's a cool person. And then she made a sale, and then he still fired her. And then there was another time, there's one guy that worked there for only a week. They made him my trainee. And he made like, I think 2 or 3 sales. I think he only made 2 sales, and one of them like got canceled because what people do, like we give them a number after you get the sale. And then like, if you want to stop it, you just call that number, the ASPCA hotline, which is not really a hotline, it's Appco.
Yeah.
Representing ASPCA. And they cancel it for you. And he only had 1 sale that week. And I remember the day before they fired him, they brought me, my trainer, and him into the office, kind of ambushed him because I didn't know what was going on. And he basically told them, well, if you don't get a sell today, you're fired. I just thought that was really weird. I was like, why did I have to be there for that? Mm-hmm. You know, why did you have to kind of embarrass him like that? And now he's uncomfortable. He's scared because he was only hired that week. And now you're telling him, because that's another thing that with Kwaundel, that he would have like difficult conversations with you if you're not making a sell after like 1 or 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. Like if you have like a bad week, like you can't have a bad week unless you're like one of his buddies, because he played favorites as well. Like there were like some of the reviews on Indeed, like some of them you will see that it would say it's like high school, because it kind of was in a way. It was kind of like high school. There's favorites, there's favoritism. You know, if you're on his good side, or people that, you know, things that like, there were some people that work there that things that they would do or how they would act. If I did that, I would get fired, because I wasn't that close with them. I kind of tended to keep my distance with them unless I had to talk with them, because I just started noticing like, this is not something that a business owner should be doing, a legit business owner.
Yeah, it doesn't give, just not knowing this guy, but just based on, and you know, you share this with the impressions that you have, it just doesn't look right. You know, just doesn't put him in the best frame.